out. I forgot to pull that over here. Let's see here. I have these little silicone tipped brushes, and I use these a lot of times to put on masking. If you're not familiar with masking, this is masking, or liquid frisket, whichever one you want to call it. Mine's getting a little on the old side. This does have a shelf life, and it doesn't last long, I can tell you. But if you don't have these silicone brushes, you can take a cheap brush and dip it in Dawn dish soap, and then use your then just kind of wipe off the extra. But then you can dip it in the frisket, and it will save your brushes so that you can use them later. But I'd still only use it for your masking. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mask off the stamen here of this flower. It's hard for me to see today. Do I have my light on? I guess I didn't bring it down enough. It's very gray and miserable looking outside. I was over at my house cleaning before the housekeeper gets there. Do y'all do that? And I was about to burn up. I was sweating like crazy. It's so muggy today. So I'm just dabbing in. Kind of go around, because you want to mask the areas you want to mask, and try not to mask other than that, because once it's there until it completely dries. Okay, I'm just going to mask these little seed pods. I'm not going to do the stem that comes up from it. I guess I could do it down here, because it's actually the stem that I want to be more on the white side. But up here, it's really not around anything. I see two I missed. But down here, I can, whew, that stuff stinks. It stinks. It smells like your husband's stinky feet. All right, I think I'm good there. Hi, Andrea. I didn't see Pam come in. Let's see who we have. Oh boy, you might have to go out and come back in again. I'm gonna get this stuff off of my brush or my implement immediately. See, this just wipes right off of these with just a dry paper towel. But if you get it in a brush and you don't do what I asked you to do originally, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Now the key is to avoid this area altogether until that dries. And I could have done this without you guys seeing it first, but this is Watercolor 101, and it's important for you to see it. The reason why I would do this before a video is so that it would have time to dry and we could carry on and use it as a time saver. So we got that taken care of, and we'll just work around that area now. And I pulled, just for the coloring, and this is a terrible print, but I pulled and this is not even, my ink well is needing to be refilled, so it doesn't give me the greens in here. But I just wanted to kind of show y'all, that we're going to use this red throat, and these are going to be more of those vibrant greens through here, and through here, and maybe a little bit up here. We're just going to play and see what we can do. But I wanted to find something with some color there, and so I pulled this as a reference. It's not something that you want to copy and put your name on and share all over the place. So we just have to stay on the safe side of things. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pre-wet right here this part of his chest. I'm using just an Escada round, just a round brush. I think this is a number 6. I'm getting a significant shadow. That's why I can't see. It's the shadow. All right, and a lot of that's going to be white, but right here underneath this area here, right in here, right below the eye, right from his beak under the eye, and where these feathers start, that's going to be red. All of this right here is going to be red, but I want it to wet everything below it because I want this to not have a hard line. Okay, I'll just pull this down some more. All right, so I'm going to find a pretty red. I'm going to carefully go right here. We're just going to leave that. And see how it's leaving kind of a softer edge. It's following that water some, but it's really kind of leaving a softer edge there. I'm going to pull into these areas here where the feathers above it are. Just tapping in a little extra color here. You may as well start on the bold side, right? May as well start boldly. Let's see. You just ordered a set of, it's got a travel set, and the number 2 won't stay in, so I can't use it. It won't stay in what? In the inside of the little case it's in? The little tube? I've never tried their travel set. I use their regular brushes. Princeton has a decent travel set, the Princeton Aqualite. But I'll tell you what, for travel sets, there is a Bastic, I think it's called Bastique. If you go on and look in the Amazon shop, there's a set in there that's inexpensive. It's like between $20 and $30. And it's just as good as the higher name brands. What's the name of your paper, Sherry? I'm going to take a little bit of some blue, cobalt blue here, and I'm going to kind of go up underneath his eye a bit. I wonder if you put like a little bit of tape on it. With my travel sets, the travel sets, for some reason, I've gotten some where at least one of them have been hard to even get the brush out of it because the cap is so tight on it. I've got a set like that, so it can go one way or the other. All right, guys. So this, actually adding this blue here, has done an optical mixing. I need to let that dry because I need to let it dry. But I put in cobalt blue right here, and you can see optically it looks like it's purple, because I put it on top of the red. And I need to let that dry before I go back in with anything more right there. All right, I'm going to kind of go in with I'm going to kind of touch right here on the outskirts of these feathers here. Right here. I'm going to use some of that same red by tapping. And I want that to be pretty soft. And then down here, I'm going to do something very similar. I've got some pinky color tone in my water, so let me pick some of that up. I don't want pink. Be careful when you're working on an area of your painting that needs to remain white and you're doing wet on wet and you've already been playing around with other color. Just be mindful that you could deposit that down. I'm just going to come down here a little bit and add some of that as there as well. Now I've wiped my brush off, and I'm going to come down here and pick up. I'm going to mind this for a minute. I'm going to come down here and I'm taking my clean brush. I'm going to swipe and wipe off, swipe and wipe off. what I'm trying to do is to stop that from moving any further into my area here. Okay. I'm going to take some quinacridone turquoise. Who are my turquoise girls out there? I'm just going to do this wet on dry. I'm just going to go straight away like this. Now I want to leave, he's got like a brow right here. I want to leave that. Don't include that in this. I'm just using my reference over here, looking at that occasionally for my color choices and where I want to come down and around. Rinse this really well. Okay. I'm going to take a little purple. Purple over top of your turquoise. You want to make sure this isn't overly wet. We did wet on dry because we want to make sure that it's not overly wet. I'm actually taking some of the paint off of my brush and coming in very close to the top of his head here. I'm going to leave a good part of that turquoise showing. I'm going to come down this far with that. And I'm going to take some of this turquoise and I'm going to kind of just, actually I'm going to go ahead and paint his little beak. The top part of his beak I'm going to do in turquoise. I know you think, oh, she's lost her mind. Trust the process, girls. Trust the process. Let's see what you're saying. I gotcha. Yeah, I know. Asada makes excellent brushes if you can afford them. I mean, some of their brushes I've paid alone for one brush, I've paid $60 to $80 for. But this is a beginner's class, and I didn't want to make a suggestion for those because I didn't want people to feel like they couldn't have success without them. All right, let's check our... Okay. I'm going to come up underneath here, underneath his wing. And then all the way down here. And I'm pre-wetting. Sherry, did you answer my question by chance? Hi, Linda. It's a watercolor block, professional quality, 140 pound. Well, cotton paper is going to absorb very quickly. It's going to absorb, you know, just if you're doing wet on wet, just make sure you've got a good wetness to your paper, and it's going to absorb it. But when you get ready to put the paint down, you want to make sure that it glistens. You don't want it to be like puddly wet. You want to make sure that it's got a good glistening. You'll notice the difference. You'll know what I'm talking about. But the water does go into the paper so that it makes the paper workable. I'm just pulling this down. Just with soft color, soft blends. I'm going to go a little bit darker up underneath his wing. And some and some papers that say 100%. I don't know the brand, but there are some that are just better than others. Did you say it was cold press? Or is it hot press? Some brands are just really, really hard to work with. All right, I'm going to dry this. This is just an underpainting that we're doing right this minute. And be careful with your heat tool. You don't want to keep a heat tool on this masking fluid. If you do, you will not be able to get that masking fluid completely off, and that's a bummer after you spent that much time. All right, I'm going to take and use some of my Payne's Gray. Make sure you don't have any water on your ferrule or any chunks of paint like that one had a chunk of paint on it. I'm going to go ahead and pull in my separation of my top beak and my bottom beak there. And with these, you usually have to reload often. These are small brushes. Okay, we got our bottom. We're going to work on the top one now. And I pre-painted that top one because I want to leave some of this turquoise showing. And so I'm going to kind of go around this feather right here. And definitely come down here. I just dropped a big bunch of water right there. That's frustrating. I'm just gonna, so I want it to leave some untouched areas for a highlight. I might try to pick a little bit of this up. I'm not really sure if I will be able to or not. Such a tiny area. The paper can really make it very frustrating for you if you're doing wet on wet, and don't have 100% cotton. But there are expensive watercolor papers out there that sell it as 100% cotton, but they're not great watercolor papers, in my opinion. We're going back at this again. I'm just leaving that as a highlight. Hi, Mary. Soften that hard line. All right, we're going to do the same with the eye. Go ahead and put that eye in. And be really careful. And I want to leave a highlight there. Yeah, it takes time. It sure does. It takes time with the progression of the medium and what to do. All right, so I'm going to go. This should be dry here. I'm going to turn my book so that it's more convenient. And I'm just still using my small brush. I'm going to tap off here. And on this dry paper, I'm going to try to look at my feathers. Let that dry for a second. I'm going to go back in over it. just gonna, I don't want them to look like they were, I'm just tapping a little bit of water. I want to kind of leave the aspect that there's texture here, but I'm gonna let that dry. And up here, we're going to bring some of that turquoise as well. Right up here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, but we're gonna go with it. I dropped my brush. I don't know why it happens, but occasionally it falls loose from my grip. One of the agitating. I'm just trying to soften this area with water now. There we go. Okay. Now I'm just going to take my water and go back over this area here. I missed this area a while ago. That's why I went back to it, but that's the reason why. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to tap this cobalt blue in right here. And just put, it's really going to be a little bit of shadowing right there. I'm using back to my Escada. Going back over here, pulling some of this out and softening that off. Just keeping it soft. Okay. Now I can come back over here and re-wet this. This blue that I'm using is very granulating. And if you're not familiar with what that means, it's that the pigment that they use, it doesn't bind well to any binders that they use, and so when we add water to it, you'll see all these granules. You'll see all these granules of the pigment, and that's all it is the pigment breaking down because we added water to it, separating from any binder that was there. I'm going to try to make this area through here smaller. There we go. It didn't need to be that big. All right, let's see. I'm going to come up this side of my wings now. I'm going to pre-wet. I actually ordered some Adine paper recently. I'm going to try that. I've ordered some Blick paper. I'm going to try that. The Blick paper is okay. I find that it's harder. It's a little bit harder to work with. Both of them are 100% cotton. I'm going to put some purple, but I'm going to mix it with that blue that we're using. And I'm going to kind of follow my lines a little bit and let it do its thing. I haven't had a chance to try the Meeden paper. If anyone else has tried that, let me know how it is. Or if there's a brand of paper you want me to try. Also, what can impact that is the size of the brush you're using when you're wetting your paper. If you're trying to wet the paper with a smaller brush and you're trying to wet the whole thing, maybe try wetting just a portion or getting a larger brush, because you want to make sure that your whole area is the same wetness. The sheen is exactly the same the whole way, and you can feel like you're chasing it down constantly if you're using a small brush on a large piece of paper, because obviously it's going to start drying. Okay, I'm just going to let that be for right now. And come down and do our very bottom. And you can use whatever colors you want. It wasn't so much my goal to use the colors I'm using right now. I usually just feel what I'm feeling and go with it. I'm looking for my green, the green that I want. That's not it. Let's see. Just add some yellow to it, maybe. Makes it look very, I don't like that. I'm trying to mix an opaque yellow into my, I'm not liking it. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to find something, another color to use. I don't know if I've got it in here. All right, we'll use this color. I'll put some water in there so I can release those pigments. Okay, much better. Alrighty, let me get this. I don't want to lose my lines here. Actually, this will go back shortly and get some extra color. Hi, Lori. I use bow hung paper a lot. Bow hung paper is what I use to teach my seated classes with. Actually, if you get the try not to buy the artist grade, buy the academy grade. I think you will find that you like that better. It's closer to what Arches is. It's closer to the feeling of that. Buy the Academy brand. It's exactly this. It's literally the same thing. The only thing is that the artist grade is rougher, and they even have a rough on top of that. And that's really, I really do not recommend that for beginners. I use it, but I've been painting quite a few years, and I think it would be a bit way too much for you guys. I'm sorry. That color is Kelly Green, and it was in my pan. You can try to mix if you got turquoise, you can mix turquoise and yellow together, and it will probably give you a bright, pretty green. But that would be hard to get. Or you can try cobalt blue and your cad yellow or lemon yellow. It won't be the same as this green, but it will be pretty. But these are my White Nights paints that I get. They are handmade Russian paints, and I went and grew to love them before the war started over there, and it's just a small mom and pop company, and I love their paints. I absolutely love them. I love them just as much as I love the Daniel Smith paints. I truly do. I think they give a very powerful color and are less likely to get muddy. Some of your less expensive paints, you're going to have problems with that. Paints are, I'm going to pull up some of this green here on the brow. Now I'm flying by the seat of my pants is what I'm doing here. As far as where I'm putting color. I'm kind of trying to decide where I want it to go as I'm putting it down. All right, I'm going to go right into my cobalt, right from the pan here, and I'm going to come underneath of these. Cobalt is a fugitive color, and it will lighten on you. So as I put it down now, it'll get a lot lighter than that. I'm going to take some purple and kind of go right up underneath here, because I want there to be some shadowing here. I didn't mean to go that far. I have not had that much coffee today, but you would think with all the dropping of my brushes and stuff that... All right, I'm going to take, and I'm going to pull these. And it does the work for you when you do that. And you can do it here, but honestly, you're gonna have a harder time with your feathers if you try to do it with your feathers. It's just too much work there. We're going to do something else to make those pop and stand out. All right, let's see. Hey, Sherry. Welcome back home. I think I might go with a green underneath his wing. I changed my mind. Going back to the drawing board right here. Anytime I want to make a little bit of a shadow, I'm using my purple or my cobalt. And right now I'm just taking a damp brush and dabbing some of that up because it was pretty wet and I didn't want it to run. All right, let's move over to our leaves and our flower here. I'm just going to go ahead. You don't have to do this one wet on wet. You can do it wet on dry. I find that I'm going to get a bigger brush though. Always use the biggest brush for the job without it being uncomfortable for you. So for this, I moved up to a number 8 versus a number 4 because I got a lot of territory to cover, and it will help me to get my paper, my surface wet quicker so that this side isn't drying out faster. Yes, I have dirty water, and see what it's leaving on my paper. Do you see how dirty that looks? And that's exactly what it will do to your flowers if you don't clean out your water. So you always want to try to use the freshest water you can so that your colors don't get muddy, because essentially your water, pale, becomes paint. All right, I'm just making sure one more time everything's even. And we're gonna use this color I mixed over here. And it's a strange looking color, and it's actually not a very transparent color. I'm going to take the back of my brush and I'm going to start working on a few of these details here. Don't carve in too tight. It really takes a little pressure. Okay, so we're going to leave this for a few minutes. Actually, we can actually go in while it's still wet and drop in some other color. That would probably be our fastest way to achieve this. I'm staying away from that center because I want that to be a stem. And if some of the color bleeds in there, that's fine, but it'll be more natural and lighter. And we'll touch bases with that one again in a little bit. I kind of want a peachy pink color for this flower. I'm going to turn this upside down. And go ahead and pre-wet my flower, my leaf here. Trying not to go into my flower here. And you don't have to go all the way to your edge either, because you're going to have, likely going to have a mat or a frame on this. So don't feel like you have to go all the way to your edge. I'm going to use this green. I may change this up later because it is a very awkward and very unnatural green. We'll just let that go for now. Actually, we can. I'm gonna tap, tap, tap some color right here. And I can hardly see the lines anymore. Bow hung paper used to be, I think, less expensive, but I started with it a few years back, and I was recommending it to my students, and nobody else that I heard on YouTube, the big names on YouTube, weren't mentioning anything about it at all. I didn't hear the first thing. That's not the best looking, but it's going to be okay. I think if we put some of this blue in, it'll be better. That's better. My UPS guy's here now. I don't think he got out. He had a couple of 18-wheelers behind him. He must have felt intimidated. When we get a new UPS guy, he doesn't like turning into they don't like turning into our driveway, because we have power lines that go across our driveway, and they don't realize that they're clear. They won't knock it. Their truck isn't that tall. But it intimidates them, and I can understand, and I'd rather them be cautious than not. Last thing I want is a down power line in my yard. Okay, that's better. Hey, Glenn. This probably is a 9 by 12. Let's see. I have a short ruler right here. This is 6. And that's, yep, 9 by 12. Alrighty. I just don't have the right green I want to use today. I need to get some better greens on this tray. I'm not loving it. All right, for here, I'm going to go ahead. See all this water, all that water I have on my ferrule? You see that? I'm going to come along here, and I'm just going to make sure those get off. Yes, you might pull some paint off your brush, but it's better to do that than get a water droplet right into your drying paint. I realize that I'm probably off screen here. Y'all have some really good questions today. You never know. We live out here in the middle of nowhere, so we get used to one driver, and then we wind up getting another one. We had one that we had for a very long time, and I think he really enjoyed the people here, but he was offered, you know, and I can't blame them. I really don't blame them, especially as often as they're here at my house. I'm going to come down here to the bottom and just tap into some of these leaves here where they're attached to the stem. I'm just going to tap, tap, tap. Some of those have already started drying, so you can see it's not spreading. But that's okay. We can help it out just with a damp brush and a damp brush. If it's still way wet, it'll just pick the paint up like it did just then. It picked this paint up instead of smoothing it out. Okay, there's variations. All right, we're just gonna, I don't like just leaving this pure white. I always say don't ever leave the white paper of your, if you have like this hummingbird, for instance, he's got a white area here. use clean water to go over top of that instead of just leaving it raw paper. Using water in general is going to make that, I don't know how I want to say it. I guess I don't want to say more permanent, because obviously the white is permanent, but it's going to make it feel like it's more part of the painting than having it. It's going to make it look more finished. So just some clean water. Did everybody get some bad weather this weekend? Okay. I got a couple of leaves down here. I'm just going to go ahead and paint these in. This is a hooker's green I'm using. Oops. We had storms yesterday, but it was no big deal. It was, not to us, it wasn't. I know that it really, that same system caused havoc in other places, but for us, it was really okay. I went into my water and rinsed off my brush, and it picked up the turquoise that I've been using, and I'm kind of liking it, but might use some of that turquoise right here. But it really didn't come, that we had rain and such in the afternoon yesterday, but it really, the storms only came last night, through the night. If anything really came, I was unaware of it. All right, we'll see how that works. I'm not really a fan of these greens that I have. All right, let's see. This is dry. I'm going to wet right here. I have a bunch of water right here that my brush dropped down. I don't know if y'all could see that or not, but if you did, right here in this area, I'm either going to lift that up or move it and use it. Pull it out further than what I need it. And I'm going to use some of my purple here because it's a good color for the greens as a shadow. And that will move because I've got water out pretty far. And you can tilt your paper if you want to get it moving. Looks. That's right. That's all we can do. Trust the process. Okay. All right, back to the wings. Right, I'm going to use, what is that color? Is that turquoise? My full-on turquoise. Okay. I'm just going to take water in between these lines at the top. I want there to be like shadows start in between. not pre-wetting this because I want control. And you can see my hand is very shaky. Don't go so far before you need to go in with just your water here. I'm just going in between those lines and loosening up some of that pigment with a clean brush. And I'm going to come back this way with clean water. I need to let that dry a little bit. We'll work on this side some. Oops. Just don't drag your hand in it like I just did. All right, so I'm just taking, and these are shorter. If they're not perfect, don't worry about it. All right. Trying to get a very concentrated. Ugh, that's too much. Too much of a chunk. Right, there's like a little bit of a rose of aquamarine. Rose of aquamarine here is a very pretty color. We're going to try to use some of this here. Sorry, I'm not ignoring any questions, guys. I'm just concentrating. It's hard to make this kind of detail. And look at your camera. It's a really, really pretty color. I'm going to kind of come here. And this should be still a little bit damp, so this color should move some. Okay. I'm just going to put some aquamarine, rose of aquamarine right here. I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to pick up some of this rose of aquamarine. And I'm just going to rinse my brush off. I'm letting that move. Come this way with it. If I come this way with a damp brush, it will help me to soften it and keep it from moving in that direction. And I'm just going to make sure all these are good and damp. And let's see. This is a little bit of a different color. I can't remember the name of it. I'm wondering if this is rose of aquamarine. This might be a mauve. but it's a little bit brighter than the other color. I'm just going to leave that white space. Just leaving it there. Okay. I'm going to clean my palette off over here. Now I've got a fresh start. For the most part. All right, I've got a pinky tone I really love. It's really beautiful. I'm going to put some of my yellow from my white nights in here. And I'm going to try to make a corally color. That's pretty. And I'm going to go ahead and start. I don't know if that's enough pink for my liking. You can go right over top of your masking. There's no need to be precious about it. And I was going to do this wet on wet, but it's up to you. If you do, don't bring your water all the way up to the top, but don't put your paint all the way up there. And that way it leaves your ends of your flower petals nice and soft looking. Y'all are seeing me do this with dirty water, but I normally would not. I would normally get up and change this water out. Changing your water out regularly is going to be your best, is going to give you the best result. So I'm going to go as far as I can here, wet that, and then add some of this in here. And I can always kind of come in and add some lines where the wetness is. I'm just going to dampen this so it doesn't give me a hard line. Come in here again. I'm going to pick up a bigger brush because that's just not, a bigger brush is going to pick up more water. It's going to pick up more paint. It's going to make things faster for you. If you struggle with using a bigger brush, just use the biggest one you can. And little by little practice with it. I'm going to come this way. Now this is going to be foreshortened, so I won't see as much of this color in the center on this side. I'm just bringing those lines to the center. And that gets to be a little tricky, but you might in practice one. I'm going to get right over top of that. Masking. While I can see it, I'll go ahead and pull in some lines. And then we'll go in with our center. We always want our center to be the darkest. So I'm going to take some of this red tone, this color we used on the wings. I'm just going to tap that in there and let it do its thing. Hi, Mary. All right. Like I said, I like to take and use a wet brush just to do it on anything that's raw, still left uncovered by watercolor. Let's see. And just pull some of that out. Pull, pull, pull. Okay. I'm going to go into my White Nights paints here. And I'm going to pull out some, I can't remember the name of this green. It's terrible. It's really pretty too. I have to check it out. I'll use that on here just because I don't like this. I don't like this green on this. I'm just taking a damp brush. Oops. I'm just taking a damp brush and pulling some of this out. I wouldn't really call this a glaze, but that's what it is when you get out to this point. I went ahead and dropped in a darker section up close to where the shadow would be. But once I pulled it out, I'm just using the water on my brush and the paint to create a glaze. Much better. But it made it very pretty to go on top of it. So you can still see that color under it. It really made it glow. And that's why you do layers in watercolor. And I've got some weird lines happening here. So let me fix them. Got some hard lines. Weird, weird. All right, I'll try to fix them later. And this is, I think, a rolled up flower. And so we're gonna, now that we got this dry, I'm gonna oops, I got a little green on this brush. Got a little green in the water. I'm gonna use the same color. It's not going to be as crisp because it's got a green tinge to the water under it. Okay. I'm going to take some of this pretty pink, straight up pink. This is the color that I use to mix the orange. And then I'm just going to take a damp brush and pull it back this way. Okay, I'm going to dry that. Come around here. I'm going to come into these details right in here where it separates these petals. And let's get really, really full of color here. And I'll pull it out, but I'm going to soften it too by adding water on my brush. I'm pulling it out, but I went right next to that color with a damp brush, and it will come out some. We can do the same thing right here. And just drop that bit right there. And then one more spot, and that's right here. Let's try that again. Okay, I'll leave that for now. And then I'm going to come back over here and do a really quick glaze on this one. So I'm just wetting it. Make sure when you glaze that you get right to those edges. Okay. You can do this as and this just brightens it up. Now, I've gone over this spot a couple of times. So I need to watch it for a cauliflower, because that could definitely happen. And some of this, I don't mind having a softer peachy edge too. So we'll just leave that. Okay. And that was just cad yellow. Cadmium yellow for that. All right, I know y'all think we're about finished, but we're not. Our next session will be about bringing in the details here, and we got that started. But I've got other ways I like to incorporate texture that I hope that y'all will enjoy. Plus, we're going to remove this masking after this has all had a chance to dry, and it'll be good. Yeah, it's much better when it's springtime versus the freezing cold. But you know what? I'm not going to hold my breath on that too much, because I think we can still have some cold weather at this point. I don't know what year it was. Was it 99? We had a huge April snow here. I know y'all don't want to hear that, but anyways, but it's true. I'm going to put in some of that. I'm going to be careful not to touch my flower here, because it could definitely go bad on me if I do. I'll have to see what I got from UPS and see if I need to share it with you guys so you can see what goodies I got. Should be a frame. I've been waiting on a frame for a while. All right, I didn't cover that whole thing. I just covered that bottom half and then just made sure it doesn't have a hard edge. I'm going to go right along this stem. See how that makes that pop out? Isn't that amazing? How it just made this whole stem pop out. Pops right out from it now. All those little details that we can do to make things work. Hope y'all have a blessed day. I might do a background. I might not do a background. In a situation like this, I would definitely do my background last. Thank you, Teresa. Hummingbirds have been one of my favorites for years. I collected them. I have to say that cardinals probably are now, but hummingbirds are a very close second. I'll let you know, Sherry, okay? Y'all are a mess. You're welcome, Teresa. It's possible, Mary, I might do a background, but we'll see. Honestly, I might do something a little different that might... Thank you, Tanya. Hi, Ginger, if I didn't say hello before. Joan, hello. Glenn. Wow, I had lots of people hop on. If I missed saying hello, say hello to me. I'd appreciate that. Glad you hop on. All right, girls. Talk to you later. Girls and guys, talk to you later. Bye. I have a mic on this morning because we have stop and go traffic because of road repairs outside of my studio. And this has noise canceling properties on it. I have had issues with this mic cutting out and then you guys not being able to hear me. So if at any point you're not able to hear me, just keep telling me on my feed because you know that if I don't see you right away, it might be a little bit. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. We're going to get started on finishing our hummingbird today, and hopefully some more will join us. I was a little early hopping on. So I wanted to tell you in advance that one of the things I did off camera on Monday was I pre-wet his little belly area right through here. And I just tapped in a little bit of my turquoise. And so if that looks different to you, that's the reason why. One other thing I did was that I felt like I had 5 little wings coming down here for his tail feathers. I didn't feel like that was enough. So I put 2 more on each side. And you kind of have to make it a curve to come around and up. But just so that you know, if you want to do that, if you choose to do that, you're welcome to do that. Hi, Teresa. Have y'all started your hummingbird painting? I've gone ahead and pre-primed my paints. They're over to my left-hand side, which might be backwards in camera to you all. Do y'all have a good visual of the hummingbird painting? Can y'all see it okay? All right, I'm going to get this is like a rubber cement blob, one of these things here. You can use an eraser, you can use your finger. Just make sure everything is clean. I hesitate using my fingers on my paintings because they're full of oils and they can leave traces of that oil on the paper and attract dirt later. But I'm going to use this and it grabs this, it grabs the masking fluid that we put on Monday very nicely. They're just like rubber cement blocks. You can use a clean eraser or just your finger if you want to. If you've got a lot of masking, it can make your finger raw. All right, we're going to start with a dampened brush in our clean water, tapping off. And I'm going to come over to, I'm going to go ahead and pre-wetten this, trying to stay inside. And I've already gone outside, but I'm going to try to stay inside of my line here. Good, I'm glad y'all can see it okay. And it's okay. If you get water outside, just go ahead and take a paper towel. I'm only really doing the stem right now of the stamen. And I'm going to take just some, probably more or less a lemon yellow. And I'm going to tap that color in for it to be a very soft It's going to be softer when it's on a wet surface. I'm going to take, and I'm going to very carefully, actually I'm going to get a smaller brush, get more of a detail brush, dampen it, tap it off, make sure I don't have any of that water there around the ferrule to fall down on my painting. Come back into that yellow and start filling in some of these. If it dries out, your brush don't move the paint anymore, just put the tip of the brush inside of your water. You don't need to put the whole brush into the water, just the tip. When you run out of paint, grab a little bit more paint. And you really need to be very conscious about keeping that habit of water control, which is tapping that off. I'm going to take some of this and come down. You got 3 stems right here. And the drawing is very light for me, so. And some of these over here to our sides have stems and some of them don't. And I'm just going to get right back into my yellow each time. Thank you, Sherry. And I'm just trying to find my drawing here. I have some of my paint over too. I had too much water on that one. It has created a water blob. So I'm going to carefully I've dried my brush. I'm going to try to tap some of this water off. It's a big risk in doing that because you can make your blob a lot bigger than what you want to. And I'm going to take and pull using this small brush. I'm going to get a good amount of paint, holding my brush all the way up, and I'm going to pull a straight line down through to meet up with the bigger part of this stem. Okay. And everybody's hearing me okay? I'm going to go ahead and pre-wet using my smaller brush here. Staying inside of I'm just trying to pre-wet one side of this. Actually, you can pre-wet the whole thing. It'll be fine. Just making sure you stay inside. And I'm going to take some of my green while that's wet. And I'm going to come over here on this side. I'm tapping. And generally what happens when you do that on the whole thing is that it fills in the whole thing with an area that small. But it's okay. We'll go back through and add more to it. On these top pieces, I think I'm going to find, let's see, a pretty color. Maybe the red that we used to create our flower with. And I'm just going to kind of circle this bottom area here. And I'm going to come back and soften that. And these details, these little details and all these working parts, this is time consuming. So I'm going to spend my time doing all this fanciness on these larger ones, but I'm not going to worry as much about the smaller ones. I'm going to cheat a little bit on the smaller ones. This one got a little bit weird. I'm not going to worry overly too much about it. All right, let me see. Should have a different brush around here somewhere. Let's see. This one. Or this one. I pre-wet them. And I'm going to tap. I'm going to tap the side where the stem is coming up at them. And these here are so small, I'm not going to stress myself out over that. I'm just really going to take a damp brush. I'm dipping my brush in my water, I'm wiping it off on the side of my water, and then I am putting a little bit of paint, not a lot, on my damp brush. I'm just tapping in on that one side where these little seed pods meet. And up here on these bigger ones, if I need to go in and fix the shape, I can go in and fix some of the shapes and such. Okay? Let me see. I've got a little bit more of a darker green here. And I'm just going to put it on this side. And I'm going to come all the way down here, right next to that red, as close as I can, and tap all the way down and around. Let me show y'all up close here what I did, so that you can see. All the way down and around on that one side. Okay? Hey, Sherry. Thank you. Hey, Andrea. Good morning. Okay, now I'm going to take, and I'm going to come and pre-wet that. Then I'm going to leave it alone, because if I fuss again, I'm going to spread that green. So I'm just leaving it alone. Okay. Now I want to dry that real quick. Now I want to kind of make a background for this. And this is optional, but I want it to give, and it's again negative painting. I want to make sure this is really, really good and dry. And I probably should have waited to do this part until after my background was done, but I wasn't thinking about that this morning. But for you guys, if you use your masking, you might want to wait till after your background is done. And your background is optional. I mean, you could leave it like this and it could be done, and you would get a lot of support and a lot of people very happy with your, okay, so because we're going to have a large area, we're going to pre-mix some color here for our background. And what I want to do is kind of set this so that we have, that our color's just not going everywhere. I want it to kind of swoop. And when you do something like this, your concentrated color for your background needs to be focused around one thing. And in this case, I'm going to do it around my flower. My bird is here, but I want to bring more attention here to my flower. You just need to make that decision, which one you want to be spotlighted more. So I want to use And I don't have the right colors here, but I can make the right color. I've also got my pan here. I'm going to use some of my dioxazine purple. Guys, I'm going to tell you, hi Nancy, if you have dioxazine purple, please, please, please be very sparing with that color. It can be very powerful, and you can, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads, and that's not what you want. Be scared of dioxazine purple, not to the point that you don't use it, but to the point where you heed my warning with it. Anybody who's ever used it knows what I'm referring to. All right, so I'm rinsing my brush really well, and I'm going to go in. I'm using a larger brush here, taking off some of my water droplets on the ferrule, and I'm going to come around my flower. And I still have some of that mixture. I have dioxazine purple mixed with, you can mix it with a little bit of green. That's always pretty. As a matter of fact, I'm going to add a little bit of my green to this. But I also have mixed in a little bit of Payne's Gray. Sorry, I just remixed a little bit of that, so that. Be very careful not to go into your flowers. The idea is that you go around. I still got a lot of this color on my brush. Okay, I'm just going to leave that. See how much color I have there? I'm going to rinse my brush really well, and I'm going to tap off. And just with my damp brush, I'm going to come here to this edge, and I'm going to pull some of this out. Be careful of what you've got down already. You've got your hummingbird, you've got your other flower down here. Rinse and repeat. Just make sure you don't have a hard line there. Then you can go back. Since this is still damp, and tap some more in. I'm going to add a little bit more purple to mine. And the reason why I use purple here is because my orange and my purple are opposites on the color wheel, or very close to being opposites on the color wheel. And they go really, really well together. All right, I rinsed my brush, tapped off, and again, even though this paper's wet, I'm making sure that I'm just tapping around and helping that line to spread a little bit and not get a hard line. Again, up here, I'm just going to, okay? And you're beginning to see that flower already even more. Come on this side down here, just with clean water, and down here with my leaf. I'm not coming all the way down to that leaf. I want to, I'm not coming all the way down the leaf. I'm going to leave some of that. You can pick your book up and let that run. And you're going to want to get in real close without going into it. Right where you laid that water. And so here, see that hard line? I've just got some clean water on my brush, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to run my brush along that edge. Hopefully y'all can see immediately where that hard line disappeared. I'm going to come over here with just my wet brush, going around, making sure that I'm careful about the shapes of my leaves and petals. Okay, I'm just going to take, here I'm going to take some of this purple straight out of my pan, and I'm going to tap right there and right here. I'm actually using a different purple. This isn't dioxazine. I think this was quinacridone violet, maybe. And that will, I'm just going to follow that line with a damp brush. And then over here with a wet brush. I'm just going to leave that just like that, because a lot of this side over here is going to be covered. I can go up into this corner right here, add just a touch of that purple. And let it do its thing there. All right. Now we need to do up here. But let's see what Andrea's saying. Well, good. I'm glad that it does help. That's the purpose of this group, really, is because a lot of people search for answers and can't really find them. A lot of creators want to spoon feed you. And to me, that can leave you in pure frustration. And I'm not downing any other creator, trust me. I'm not trying to do that at all. And a lot of creators make their living out of teaching others. But if you're going to teach, teach. And that's my pet peeve. If you're going to teach it, teach it. All right. So I just went back in and pushed some of that again. All right. I think that quinacridone purple up against the orange here is really pretty. I just dried my brush off too much. All right, I'm going to be careful here. Now you could totally remask this if you wanted to once it's dry. I'm going to pull it up here, go in between some of your leaves. You don't need to go up high here, but maybe that first level of leaves here. And see, some of it's already getting covered by the purple. So you just have to be careful. And I'm just going to take my damp brush at the end of this, and I'm pulling out. And even still, see how this purple just grows and grows? In that case, come towards it. Okay? If your purple just keeps growing, don't keep pulling it out, or if any color. Come towards it with a damp brush, and it will stop it. And you'll be left with just water on this side as you push. But be careful not to have an overly wet brush, because if you push a wet brush towards a drying area, it will create a cauliflower. And a cauliflower is simply a hard line where the colors kind of collide. I'm just going to tap a damp brush right here and lift around that color. And I can come in with a detail brush in between these areas. And capture. Just come in lightly, don't come in dark here. And I'm going to come in a little darker right here. I'm in between that stem of the stamen, and I'm kind of coming around some of these seed areas. And it's going to make this stamen here stand out a little bit more. Just using a smaller detail brush here. And you can do that actually first. Okay. And then come back with your larger brush with water on it and pull some of that out. Just like that. I need to get right over here by the leaf. And right here in this corner here, between that leaf and flower, I'm just making that just a little bit darker. See that hard line there? Because this is starting to dry, I'm going to come this way and soften that off. Okay. All right, so we made a little bit of a background, and that has made my flower kind of stand out some, right? It's not all just such a white background. And like I said, this may be for some and not for others. And I can come back and add. This is all dry now, so. Now, if this flower here still gets lost, my apologies for any truck noise you might be hearing. It's a good time to just highlight this. And I'm going to put, I know this sounds odd, but I'm going to come back while this is damp and add a little bit of tapping off here. Adding just a touch of green right in here. Are y'all still hearing me okay? Yeah, most people do struggle with that, Teresa. And I can show you kind of an example. But really forcing yourself to get into that habit of, see, this green area really pulls this flower out. Makes it, it was getting lost with that purple. But adding just a little bit of a green, it makes it look like a leaf that's not in the shape of a leaf. So, but it really, green and red are opposites on the color wheel. And so together, they're going to really pop. Most people truly struggle with it. So let me show you. I'll give you an idea. Let me use a different tray here, Teresa. All right, let's take our green. I've got some pre-mixed green. And I've got a couple of drops of that green right in my tray. I had a damp brush and I picked this up. Do you see how smooth and silky and thick that paint is? That's generally not the consistency we want to start with. We don't want to come straight out of our pan onto our palette. Rarely, unless I say I'm going straight into my pan there. You just don't generally do that, okay? But if I take my brush and I go into that green and make it another bit, the same consistency, and I go in and add water to my brush and start to loosen this up a little bit. Such a pretty color, isn't it? Okay. And I can go even more. I can come over here. Look at all that paint still on my brush. Add more water to my brush. And I can either move some of that over and add more water to that, or just dip my brush and use this. So let's look at this all on paper. And you can go as many times as you want to. And each time it's just going to get lighter and lighter, and I'm just dipping my brush in water. You have so much paint in your brush when you go over to your palette and put paint in your brush that you don't even realize you have, and you're rinsing it off in your water, or you're laying it down on your paper. So we've got five things here. Sit this down there and hope it's going to be okay. All right, let's take this piece of paper. This lightest one, let's look at it. Let me rinse my brush completely off. Tap off. That gives me a damp brush to work with. And to not add more water to this pile. I have a damp brush. Let me take some of the water off my ferrule here. I have a damp brush, but I don't need to add more water to these piles. These piles are already pre-mixed for me to use. Okay, look at there. That's a color I will generally start with. This is what I would use to, say, do an underpainting. All right. Here's a color that's slightly darker. Slightly darker. Each time I'm going over, rinsing my brush, tapping off. Slightly darker, rinsing, tapping. Slightly darker, rinsing, tapping. And full strength. Okay? So get yourself scrap paper. Always, when you're a new student, get yourself scrap paper. Do you see the difference? and this. And now I can use this. If I put too much paint on my paper, I can use, if I get it soon enough, I can use water to make that move. You see how it gets lighter as it goes out? But you see too that that's created a hard line. This is a very staining paint. Some of your paints are going to stain very quickly and you're not going to be able to move them. That's why learning this and getting used to that is super important. Your brush control, your water control. You can always take a damp brush, tap it off, go back and try to lift in a wet. I know this is wet. These aren't because they're not glistening. This one's still glistening. Okay? So always have scrap paper so you can test your colors before you put them on. And I mean, not just testing your colors, but testing your values. That's going to make a huge, huge difference. I have to look that up. I'm not 100% sure what color green this is. Let's see. It doesn't say on here. I'm not 100% sure. And I don't think I still have the box. But these are White Knights paints. St. Petersburg White Knight paints. I have a curl in my paper, y'all, so I need to clamp this down. I hope it's not going to be a bother to y'all. But it's a little bit of a... I'm not using a block. I'm using a pad. So you can see the difference even on a white palette. That's why I'm saying use a white palette. You can see through these colors while you're mixing them and adding your water, and that will help you as well. Before long, you won't need to test it out on a piece of paper as much. I still do, but having a white palette is very helpful. And you can get a cheap white plate from Goodwill or a secondhand shop or even Dollar Tree. Andrea, stop trying to find them and start mixing your own. They're much prettier if you mix your own. You really need a very limited number of greens that are your go-to. When I buy a palette of paints, like when I bought this, you see which one I use, right? This is a green, this is a green. I don't know if that's a green, or I think that's like a phthalo green. You see which one I actually use. There's very few greens, and I can pull out every one of my palettes and it'd be the same way. They are beautiful paints. They truly are. And they're not going to break the bank. And they come in full-size pans. They're not. They also come in tubes. What have you been doing lately, Andrea? I'm sorry. The feed goes so fast. Okay, so next, what I want to do is to try to add, you know how on a hummingbird, they have that iridescence on them? Well, we're going to add some iridescence today. And this I really am going to use my scrap paper, because these paints, and they're not very expensive. I got them right off of Amazon, but they're good. They're CSY Art Gallery. They're honey watercolors. And they're really good. But I use these types of paints very, very little. On black watercolor paper, they're beautiful. But I use them just for highlights here and there. And I've already pre-dampened these, but they've already dried. My environment in here is pretty dry. Let me redampen them. I'm just going to put a drop or two in. Some of these colors I use more than others. I've had this set for a couple of years, so you can see how much of this paint I still have. Okay, I'm going to use a smaller brush here, so I think I have a number two round. I'm just going to set, I really don't want to set it on my painting. Bear with me, guys. Let's see. So let's start by doing the top of his head a little bit. So I'm going to pull off some of my blue. And I went straight from and got a little bit of this. And you can see that it kind of has this iridescence to it. So I'm going to take, add more water to it. I need my paper towel. And having a paper towel in your hand is helpful for a lot of reasons as well. Now I'm just going to take the tip of my brush and I'm going to start tapping and tapping and tapping. Not trying to cover it all, but using the brush in a pattern of feathers. And then I'm going to take, and let's see, let's use this darker blue. It turns into kind of a purpley color. I'm not sure I'm loving that. That's why, actually, this is the color I probably want. This paint is drying so fast. Look at that and how pretty that is. And then I'm going to do the same here. Too wet. Okay. And I'm not doing the whole bird here. I'm just gonna do a few highlights. And I'm gonna take right along. I'm taking the same blue. I have to turn it, guys, so I can get closer to it because I don't want to bump the camera. I'm coming right along that ridge, barely touching here. And I'll have a little bit of glimmer right at the top of that wing. Let's do the same on this one. Actually, it's right here, isn't it? If your brush dries out, just put it in the tip of it in water. Just the tip, not the whole thing. And I actually needed more paint on my brush as well. And I'm also going to take, I'm going to use some of my purple. This is a really pretty, vibrant purple. I'm going to take and pull some down here. I'm not trying to cover the whole thing. And I know it's probably hard to see. I'm taking a damp brush there and make sure I don't have any hard lines. All right, I'm going to take some of that purple and I'm going to come down on these tail feathers. And this paint takes a little getting used to, I'm just going to tell you. Just the consistency is a little bit different. I'm just wetting my brush now and coming towards the, oops, way too wet. Remember that sometimes water will get trapped in the ferrule of a brush when you dip the whole thing in, so when that happens, just quickly mind it. All right, so I've got a couple more here. I'm going to switch to the blue. Again, water in my brush. I really need to have this by my side. I threw it away over to the side. Wipe that off. And with this green, I'm going to pull some of it on his body. I think the green on a hummingbird is the prettiest. How's it been working for you, Andrea, since you've been doing it? You don't want to cover all of it. I didn't cover that darker turquoise back there. You want to leave some of that background just for highlights. Every time I put some down, I just make sure that it's softer. So I've got a spot right here, but it should be covered pretty easily. I'm going to add some of this green here. And finally, I'm going to add some right up here above his eye. I'm going to get a smaller brush for that. Okay. So we've got some little bit of sparkle here and there. Notice that I didn't come all the way up underneath the wing either because I wanted to keep that shadow. These really aren't sparkling. I think I had way too much water on my brush. Go back over here and I'm going to pick up my lighter blue that we started off with. I'm going to come this way with the lighter blue. And that's a better sparkle. I like that better. I'm going to see if I can lift some of this up. Okay, let's see. Maybe we can do some of this on our stamen here. Just on the very tops. That looks kind of blue. I think I'm going to lift it. If I can't lift it, I'll just leave it alone. I still like it. These can be a little on the messy side. I'm going to put one right here in the middle. Okay, I think I'm going to glaze over my flower again. Make sure that where your stamen comes in here is super dark. You don't want it to be black, but whatever color you choose to use. Maybe use a little bit of your opposite color to make it darker, or a partner color to make it darker. So I could use purple, make a really pretty dark Look at all that I've got around because I chose to mix. I picked up a clump of paint in my... If you're not watching what you're doing, you could be... I'm going to pull up some around... I'm going to take this dark color and pull up a little bit around my stamen as well. I'm going to pull some of this color up into the bottom. I just took some of the base color, which is kind of a reddish purple, and pulled that up at the bottom there of that stamen while it was wet. Let's dry it. No problem, Sherry. Oh, I'm glad you do. I'm glad you like it. We're going to dry this really, really well so that we can go back and do another pass over top of our flower. Because now that we've added all these richer colors, this is pretty light, and we want it to... All right, so I'm going to leave this open and let them dry. Leave your paints open and let them dry before you close them, because they will mildew and go bad if you don't do that. So let them dry. And for paints that you have left on your palette, let them stay there. They're still very usable paints. All right. Hi, Joan. Thank you. All right, I'm going to take now and wet my bigger brush. And I've got a new orange color that is from Daniel Smith. It's called Transparent Pyrrole Orange. And this is what I did. Peonies that were in my spread. That's what I did these with. And so it's a pretty orange. And so we're going to use that orange to kind of glaze over. And when I mean a glaze, I mean a very light, transparent, like a glaze. You want to see those colors underneath. So see how wet that is? And this is a nice wet, and let's test that so we can look at it and see what it looks like on our paper. See how soft that is? So that'll give us what we need to brighten this up and not go too far. I'm not going all the way to the edges. I'll tell you, I'm going to take a damp brush and pull along here. Sometimes you pull with you, but that's okay. Coming all the way down to that where we started and coming out, dampening my brush, tapping off, and then right here where it's coming out, you want those edges to be a lot lighter. I'm going to remove my clip here. I'll put it up here. Okay, and that just brings it up a little bit. If you feel like you need to go more, add a little bit more color to your mixture and make another pass. And go as dark as you think you need to go. Make sure you go in the direction your flower needs to go. Don't just be wild and free. I want that center to be darker than the rest. So it's going to be darker as it pulls towards the center and lighter as it comes out. Okay. That really brightened that up, didn't it? I think I'm going to add a little blue to him, a little blue sky around him, but I'm not going to cover the whole page. I'm going to just, my towel up here right here is sopping wringing wet, and I don't want it to get on my paper. Many of y'all have snow. I'm sorry. we have almost I don't know, it's a mid-70s day. We're supposed to get some rain and such later today. All right, so I'm just going to take my larger brush, put these up here for now. And I'm going to mix my colors because I've got a large territory to go through, to go over. I'm going to mix some colors. I've got this turquoise right here that I didn't use the other day, and whatever color this is, it must be my cobalt. And I'm going to just, they were drying on my palette, so I'm just going to use what's there. And then if I have to, I will add more. I've got a little bit of that color on my brush. I'm pre-wet right here. Go around easily here into those little areas. Do small sections at a time. Don't try to do all of it, because if you're not used to this, then you're gonna get in trouble. And I'm just gonna tap this color in. And I'm tapping, I'm just rinsing my brush off, tapping, and really just dancing my color around right here. I don't want it to trail off forever. I just want it. This, I don't want it as a hard line either. And it might be a hard line. See how this turquoise is a very strong color. And I'm just going to let this just kind of like just fall off. See, I've got areas here that I haven't even covered with paint yet. I'm just going to let that fall off. Making sure that I've got real closely in without going into the wings. Take some paper towel if you would like, and you can lift some of this. Blues can be quite staining, but it's totally, you can see where I took my damp brush. After this was already starting to dry, I took my damp brush along here and pushed it in. You can see what happens there. When you take a wet brush onto a drying surface, or a damp brush under a surface that's not quite as damp as what your brush is, it will make cauliflowers. It will make these paints separate like that. Okay, so we're just going to work with it, and we're going to, because it's still damp, we're going to just try to go with the flow here. And go with it. Okay. I'm going to take some of my softer colors, and I can tap in while it's wet. And I want some of that to go onto the dry paper too. It just doesn't want to. There it goes. This is damp, so it's gonna kind of do. I don't have enough paint on my brush on that color. Oh, thank you. I think it kind of represents, just the movement of the hummingbird, and I'm going to come right through here and add some more blue. I've got red on my brush, but it'll be okay. Do as I say, not as I do, guys. I'm going to try not to. So I don't want much of that done either. If I had red on my brush, when I pulled all that water out, I think it's pretty. I think it leaves a fun little trail of color there. Did the same thing again, didn't I? Making myself a cauliflower there. Okay. And you could do other types of colors there if you wanted to. I just used whatever was on my palette that was here and mixed up. I can do some oranges. The clips came from Amazon. If you want to just look up rose gold clips. Yeah, they're my favorite. I've got some other ones that are smaller, bulldog clips, that I like as well. I think that these need to be darker. So if y'all want to bear with me, you can. If not, y'all can not understand. Let's see. I do feel like these need to be darker. Especially in some areas. And as you progress through your painting, this is what's going to happen. Your eye's going to start getting trained to the fact that things need to stand out further than others, especially as you make additions to your paintings. And take the time and really look and observe your work. Sometimes you're going to take your painting too far, and that's okay. That's the luck of being an artist. That's what it takes in order to progress. All these artists that you're seeing online are showing you all their good stuff. They're not showing you their failures. Probably added too many right there, but that's okay. Yesterday was my youngest granddaughter's birthday, and we're having a celebration this weekend for her. And I hope you guys have a terrific weekend. I hope we all have beautiful weather for it. All right, I'm going to call it done. Yeah. All right, so all that's left to do is sign it and put it in a matte or frame or both. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope you'll give it a try. It's really not hard to do. Just have fun with it. It's use your expression to make it your own. I know that you'll do a great job. The traceable is inside of our group here. If you need to find it, just go to albums and you'll find a folder called Traceables, and it's right in there. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Love you guys. Bye-bye.